I had been for therapy before, and therapy had helped me to a certain degree. But the difference between like coaching and therapy is that a therapist's job is to support you to heal from the past on the assumption that you're kind of broken in some way and you need to heal. Whereas a coach's job is to help you to move forward. And because I had done the work on myself in terms of the therapy stuff, I was at a point where I was like, right, I'm first of all ready to learn this kind of these coaching skills. But what I didn't realize is in the process of doing that course, I completely changed like my whole life. Life is so fragile. Like we could be gone in a heartbeat. Like I've always wanted to start a business, and now I found a way to really love who I am and feel good in who I am. Like never thought I'd be able to say that. I'm super efficient, super productive. I have all of these people skills. Like I want to help other women to do this. So I had this like this kind of calling inside me, just going, literally this voice was going, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then the other voice was going, fuck no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I remember I was in my bedroom at home, and I was on the cusp of the decision, should I stay, should I go? I didn't have a lot of savings. I was on a good salary. My husband works, but we have a mortgage, we have 3 children. It's not like I had 100 grand in the bank there that I could just, leave and hope it would work. So I was going, right, I'll save now and I'll leave in like 2 years. But like inside I knew I just couldn't do another 2 years. I was done. And I remember like I had this twitch in my eye. My eye just kept twitching, it wouldn't stop, and I had this like low level anxiety all the time. And it's because it was my body telling me, Lucy, it's time. Like if you're not going to listen to what I'm telling you from the inside, your body, you're going to just look like an idiot walking around with this twitch in your eye until you listen. And I remember I was walking through my bedroom one day, and a friend of mine had given me Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Got Your Back. And I swear to God, this is no word of a lie. I was walking through my room, and the book literally fell off the locker at my feet as I was thinking, like, do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? And then I looked down at my feet, and it was the book, and it was The Universe Has Got Your Back. And I just knew in that moment that again, it was another sign that, okay, it's going to be okay. I'm abundant. I'm going to get out of this scarcity mindset. I'm going to be able to make it. I'm going to make this happen.
Lucy, it is great to have you here today. Although you said we just turned on the red lights above your head to create a lovely ambience, and you said, "Is that a sex light?"
Well, it's your place, Laura. So who knows?
And I never thought about it, but it does give a little bit of a boudoir feel to the place, doesn't it?
A little bit. It makes me feel at home, so it's all
wonderful. Good. So, Lucy, it's great to have you here. Finally. We got our shit together.
We did.
Because it took us a while to get together. So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am Lucy Gernon. Gernon, it's where you have my husband's name. And I am a mother of 3, first of all. 3 kids like yourself. And for work, I suppose, I'm an executive coach. And I work with women in leadership roles, ambitious women, high achieving women, to help them to be like more successful, more confident, more balanced, and more happy in their lives.
Okay, and how did you come about doing this role?
So I suppose I'm only in business. This is my 3rd year in business. This is my 2nd full-time year in business. But before I, had the business I have today, I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. So I have a science background. I have a master's degree in biotechnology, and I worked in research and food and beverage and the pharmaceutical industry for years. But I always loved people, and I always loved like culture, and I always loved leadership, and I always loved kind of, I suppose, the people element of my role. So while I was in the industry for years, I loved what I did, but there was just a part of me that wanted more, and I just knew that I would end up doing something different. But I think it was like, for so many people, you think when you go to college, right, you go and you do professions. So say, for example, I studied for 7 or 8 years in science. So to me, it was like, well, my career is in science. I'm going to be here in this career forever. But what I've learned is that actually you can pivot at any age. So I pivoted when I was 40, and here I am now.
Okay, so you took the leap. A little bit like myself, actually, then, in your 40s. So I was what? I'm 43 now. I was 42 when I did it. Yeah, so, and it can be done. Now, it's a bit nerve-wracking though, isn't it?
Oh my God. It was the scariest decision I ever made my whole life, because, I went from being in charge of like sterility assurance and microbiology and capital projects, right?
That sounds so interesting. Sterility assurance. Aseptic technique is where you have to, people would do it if they're making up cancer drugs and that, and they do it in a lab and they do it under, hugely sterile conditions in a hooded cave, I used to call them. So you've gone completely differently then, haven't you?
Complete pivot.
Okay. And so how did you get into the role though? Because that's a bit... Did you study to do this or?
Yeah, so it was in 2020, right? It was obviously in the middle of COVID. And I think for, say, the last 10 years, I've been working on myself. So I would have struggled really badly with anxiety and depression and a lot of like self-loathing is what I'm going to say. On the outside, people would have thought I was really confident and all that kind of stuff. But on the inside, like I really didn't like who I was. I was a big people pleaser. I was a super high achiever, a hyperachiever, should I say, meaning that I linked a lot of my self-worth to my achievements, and it was all, work, like, get it done. And if you achieve, this is all subconscious stuff that's kind of going on. So I had kind of been reading all the books and obsessed with self-help for years and just trying to understand, like, what's this all about? Like, why, if I'm achieving and I have, I got the promotion and I'd get a salary increase and I'd buy myself a new designer bag and I'd be like, this is going to make me happy. But it didn't. So I was on this quest for literally 10 years to try to understand like my own mind and why I thought the way I thought and why I, on paper, everything looked like it was okay, but inside I just really wasn't happy in who I was. So like I said, I was always interested in people and I loved leadership and I loved managing my team and I loved, just being there to support people. So I decided to do a professional coaching course back in September 2020. And that's literally when my whole life changed, was when I found coaching, because I had been for therapy before and therapy had helped me to a certain degree. But the difference between like coaching and therapy is that a therapist's job is to support you to heal from the past on the assumption that you're kind of broken in some way and you need to heal, whereas a coach's job is to help you to move forward. And because I had done the work on myself in terms of the therapy stuff, I was at a point where I was like, right, I'm first of all ready to learn these coaching skills. But what I didn't realize is in the process of doing that course, I completely changed like my whole life.
Okay. And why did you self-loathe and why did you feel like this?
So I told Laura to have tissues, so here we go.
I have the Kleenex here.
They're underneath here, you can't see them.
I'll pass them to you.
Because I think it was like, I grew up in, Catholic Ireland in the 80s. I was a good girl. So I was the eldest.
I was a naughty girl.
No, I was so good. Like, I did nothing wrong. I was, really compliant. I went to a school with, run by nuns. We were very involved in the church and things. And there was a lot of, dominance around me in terms of, like, a lot of the teachers I had were nuns and they were cruel, like, a lot of the time. So I just never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I could be myself. And as a result, I tried to be something I wasn't. I tried to fit in with the norm and I tried to, fit in with certain people in school and all those kind of things. And it just came from, I suppose, the influences around me when I was a child.
Okay. So you're growing up trying to be someone that you're not, to be compliant. Is that it? Is that the way you felt? Yeah,
it was nearly like I felt like I couldn't fully express who I truly was. Well, first of all, you don't know who you truly are when you're a kid. You're trying to figure it out. And, but for me, I would have felt like I had to conform. I felt like I had to conform and that continued on through like my corporate career as well, which is like, I would see that with a lot of my clients that I work with. It's like, we're brought up to respect authority and we've been brought up in like a hierarchical kind of a system. So as a result, there's a lot of women out there that are not owning their voice and they're not owning their power and they're not owning who they really are and bringing the best of themselves to work, like into the leadership table, which is why the world is the way it is today.
Yeah, but I think all of us, like they say about girls and women, we're taught from a young age to be good girls and to not argue back, like more so than boys. and it's just kind of a fact, isn't it? Women, little girls are told to be good,
be seen and not heard, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and if a woman asks questions or questions the norm, she's considered to be difficult, whereas a man is just considered to be, that's just a man.
But I think that's our narrative, though. I really do like that. You know, the way there's this narrative that, if a woman is assertive, she's a bitch. Or I actually have never, ever heard a man say that. I've only ever heard women say that. So that's our stuff that I think women, we need to work on. It's like, no, you're not. Like, I'm very direct. Like, I'm really compassionate. I'm really empathetic. But I'm super direct. And sometimes people can be a bit like, I'm just being direct. Like, I'm not.
Actually, I find you quite direct when you first reached out to me, But I really liked it because I like no beating around the bush. But because when we had the first Zoom call to, see how we matched up for see if you were crazy or not. You were direct and then you were like, let's book this in. And I was like, okay, I like this woman. And then when it was cancelled and you were like, let's book it in, the next one. We did it on the phone that day. And I was impressed because it was a little bit different to the way I suppose I would normally have expected to deal with someone, because another person might go, send me over a few dates that suit you, or
that's wasting time. See, this is what I'm all about. Like, especially as women, we have so much that's going on, right? So I'm all about especially when I work with people and all my content, I'm like, if you, for example, in that instance where we were going to rearrange, right? If you had come back to me with 3 dates and they didn't suit me, I would have had to email you back and go, no, Laura, they don't suit me. How about these dates? And then you'd email me back and you go, no, that doesn't suit me, maybe this date. So all of that email ping pong, right, is clogging your inbox, but also it's clogging your mind, because at the back of your mind you're going, oh, fuck, I have to organise that thing with Lucy, or I have to organise that thing with Laura. So I'm very much like, the way I operate is like, if I can make a decision in the moment, I do, so I can just move forward.
And have you learned that since 2020?
No.
Or were you always like that? Okay. Yeah. So even though you were taught to be a good girl and compliant, you were still always a direct person, is that right?
Yeah, so when I say good girl and compliant, it's like, okay, how do I explain this? I'm very results focused. So if something's going to help me or somebody else to get something done quicker or faster or easier, so that makes our lives easier, that's how I roll. So if I'm in work mode, I'm I'm very structured. I think it's the science in me, because obviously I, studied the right science for so long. I'm very structured and I'm very kind of matter of fact, especially when it comes to time, because again, so many women I work with, I work with women in the area of work-life balance, for example, as well. Women say, I don't have enough time. It's like, you do have enough time. You're just not using it in the right way. Because if you're able to make decisions fast, like the one example we just said, it just frees up your mind. And I think that's a good thing.
Jesus, I've learned something already from this podcast. I need to be a little bit more like you.
But you need to just be what works for you, though. So if it works for you the way you're operating, in your normal way, is it working for you?
No, probably not. My mind's absolutely clogged full of stuff that it doesn't need to be clogged with. So that's going to be the first thing that I do going forward, is just do that. Maybe install a Calendar app as well. Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
Was it you that said that to me to do that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that, but I never got around to it. So
you're taking yourself out of the equation there. So anything I can do in my business that's going to automate things or free me up, I'll do that, because again, emails, I hate emails. I hate this back and forth, because it's just wasted time. So it's just let's just make the decision and move on.
Even when questions come in on my hello@fabÜ wellness, and sometimes they can be quite detailed. People might give me a detailed description of, say, something that they've been through or an illness or something, and want to know if they can take my products. I'll often just fling them back, give me your number and I'll give you a ring. Because I find that if you're emailing people back and forth, A, I'm not a fast typer, but B, you could be emailing back and forth and something like that for ages. So so picking up the phone is always something that I've, enjoyed doing. I like talking to people. So when you did mention that you suffered from, or that you did have in the past, depression and anxiety, and was that related to any event in your life, or just the way you felt about yourself, or how did you overcome that?
Where's the tissues? No, I won't cry. I was always quite anxious. Like, I remember as a child, I used to serve mass, and there was one nun, and I can still see her, like, and she was, you know, it was like, if you're on the altar, like, you're performing. Right now, I'm Catholic by religion, but I don't go to mass or church or anything like that. But back in the day, that's what we all did, and I served mass. And I just remember this one particular nun, like, I remember she'd be standing at the back of the church, like, and I'd be on the altar, and she'd have us all warned, like, you know, do not look right. Like, literally, like, you look forward, you do not move. Like, it was just all very, and I always found that, like, a lot of pressure as a kid. So much so that I developed this really weird twitch. Now, my husband and I laugh about this all the time because it's just so funny. I used to go like this, something like this.
So for
my husband sometimes will look at me and just go
what Lucy's doing, she's like winking and sticking out her lips at the same time. Yeah, weird. She's winking with one and she's making a kind of a little contortion with her face.
Contortion,
do you still do it?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
But now I'm an adult looking back, I know that was my attempt to regulate my own nervous system, because I felt so nervous about the spotlight being on me. And, like, you know, some people would see me, even now, I don't mind it so much, but people would have said to me for years, oh, you love attention. But really I didn't. I think it was like I was always afraid of getting it wrong, you know. So I think that all came from, that was kind of the start of my anxiety, I suppose. And then as I grew up and as I was older, you know, there was, like, I was bullied as a kid, you know, like, who wasn't, but, like, there was a couple of girls in my estate, like, I've never told this story before actually, but who would have, you know, one girl was really older than me and she just wasn't very nice, and of course I was so gullible and I just wanted everyone to be happy and get along with everyone, and she locked me into her bedroom one day for, I'd say it felt like 2 hours. It probably wasn't. It was probably an hour, but it was a tiny box bedroom, like smaller than this. And I remember crying and banging on the door, and, like, she laughed outside for a while, and then she left me in there, and then she went outside, and, like, I thought I'd never get out. Like, oh
my goodness.
Yeah, it was really awful.
Isn't it amazing how something like that as a child can affect you, you know, for a long, long time afterwards? Like, I can see that you're very upset even talking to me here. That's awful. Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that, like, those experiences, you know, I was there in the room when I was telling you that story, which is why I was getting emotional. You know, you if you go back to the past, like, you'll experience this, you were able to relive that emotion again. But, like, there was lots of things like that, like, I won't get into details, like, lots of different things like that, because I was such a good girl, and because I was so gullible, I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I definitely didn't know how to be direct or anything like that. Like, people took advantage of me, you know.
And isn't it interesting, actually, because, you know, the way you might think that a massive, huge trauma has to happen to someone, abuse or something like that, for them to experience what you experienced, as in the anxiety and the depression and that came out of that. But it can actually be those kind of events that have a massive impact on you. And I'm not in any way saying that that wasn't traumatic for you, but people sometimes don't think that what happened to them is important enough to make them have felt that way for so long. When in actual fact, it would be much better for them if they owned that and dealt with it and weren't embarrassed by the fact that they felt this way because something like that had happened to them.
100%. Yeah. It's like, they call, you know, like, I'm not a psychotherapist or anything, but, you know, they call it big trauma or big T and little t.
Yeah.
So we all go through tons of, like, little traumatic moments in our lives that, you know, they're part of growing up. Yeah. You know, I'm sure that girl who locked me in the room thought she was being funny. Like, you know what I mean? But they're part of, you know, growing up, but they shape who you are. They shape your beliefs. They shape everything about you, you know. So, you know, I'm just thinking of a couple of clients I have, like, that are coming to mind, just to give you your listeners other examples of things that we dismiss, like the likes of that. You dismiss it and you go, I should have been able to handle it. It was a small thing. But it's all that you're reinforcing the belief about yourself. So, for example, I had this belief about myself that I wasn't good enough and that other people didn't like me. So because I had that belief, when that girl did that to me, it just compounded that belief. Okay, well, there's another person that doesn't like you. And then there's another person, right? So, for example, I had a client, she's really successful in the medical device industry, like, quite senior in her role. And I remember she told me that, you know, I would do a lot of mindset work with my clients, because I'm all about, like, self-leadership. So if you want to lead others and you want to be a good leader for your team, like you first have to learn to lead yourself if you want to make the impact. So I have this tool, I call it my subconscious mind upgrade method, where we kind of look at what's going on in your mind and we kind of get to the root cause so we can move forward. So we were talking about one particular time when this lady's in her 50s. And we were talking about a time when she was in secondary school and we were looking at her confidence and stuff, and she was playing tennis. And she said she was playing tennis with 3 or 4 girls in her class where, say, they were hitting it against the wall. And she missed a shot. And it was a big deal for her to, say, put herself out there with her friends and actually go and try play tennis, right? And at the time then, her trainer behind her teacher laughed. So in that very moment, she kind of made that mean that she was stupid and that she basically never, ever, ever played sports again since that time. Okay, I think she was like 14 or 15 or something. So when I talked to her about it, I was like, right, okay, so what other reason might there have been that he laughed? You know, so she was making it mean that I'm stupid, I'm not good enough. And this woman is making waves in her industry. Like, you know, she's super successful, but it's these little childhood moments that we hold on to that nobody tells us it's okay to let go of. You know, so that particular woman, when we went through it and she was able to see, well, actually, first of all, I don't know if he was looking at me because he was actually behind me. Number 2, it might have just looked funny.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many reasons.
And we also can't, you know, get rid of all those little moments in our lives either. As in, like, people can't walk on eggshells worrying that they're going to upset someone for the rest of their lives either. So what you teach people is to how to deal with that. Yeah,
it's like all about reframing your mindset. It's about reframing your thinking. And it's like, it's the most powerful tool that we have, is like, you have the ability in any moment to choose the thoughts that you think. But it's our subconscious patterns and those, you know, those habitual ways of thinking that kick in and just take over. So, you know, that lady I spoke about, for example, or any woman I work with in that kind of area, and like, it's the most successful women, this is what kills me, the most successful, ambitious, like, powerhouse women that actually think this way. It's actually, that's what drives them, is this belief that I'm stupid or I'm not good enough or things like that. But when you're able to go back and change the meaning, like, so it's like going back into your experiences and going, okay, there's usually, like, you know, 3 or 4 moments, like small moments, like what I described about me in your life, that'll stand out. And if you can go back to those moments and think about, right, well, what other reason might there have been that my coach laughed when I didn't hit the ball? Or what other reason might there have been that girl locked me in her bedroom? You know, you can quickly see as an adult the reason. So I think when you do that, it just sets you free, and then you can move forward.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say there's so many people listening that actually can think of these little standout moments in their lives that just had that effect on them and moving forward then. And
it's not stupid. That's what I want, like, your audience to know, is that, like, all of us have these little moments that we think are so insignificant and so stupid that we are, you know, we shouldn't, you know, they shouldn't have affected us. And this word should I hate, because it's just like, there is no should. Like, you know, they're not stupid. It's not stupid. But, you know, as an adult, you can see things differently and try to move forward.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more then about, like, you know, when you're in your 20s and that, and just how you dealt with the depression and the anxiety back then. Like, what did you do? Was it just that you buried everything and you were outwardly like Lucy is now, or?
No, I was so insecure. Like, I was really insecure. Like, I mean, my friends, I remember, again, like, I had this belief that other people didn't like me. It was so strong. So because I thought that, I did anything I could to make other people like me, right? And of course, if you have a limiting belief about yourself, like what I had about other people, our beliefs are like magnets. So we only attract evidence that supports the fact that that belief is true. So I could be sitting in a room surrounded by my friends. I remember one time in my 20s, distinctly actually, being in a bar, and we were drinking cocktails and we were dancing to, like, Bootylicious by this Destiny's Child, and we were having a great time, like, all my friends and I. And then, I don't know, something happened, and I just remember getting really upset and going, like, I just don't feel like I'm part of the group. And, you know, and I remember one of my friends, like, looking at me and just going, but you are part of the group, like you're here with us. But I'm there in the bar with my friends having fun, but I still didn't feel like I was part of the group. And I think what I did, and I don't blame myself because I didn't know better, is I looked for external validation. Like I had like a victim mentality. I thought like somebody was going to come to rescue me, and I thought, you know, if I just do this, then they'll see. Or, you know, if I I would have taken antidepressants for a couple of years as well. Like they don't help. I like if obviously if you have chemical imbalance, it's different. But a lot of the time, I believe there's people out there on medication that they just worked on their mindset and just, you know, did the therapy or did the things, like that's where it comes from, you know. So I would have been, really anxious and just people pleasing, I think.
And do you think a lot of women are like that? Like, do you think a lot of women are people pleasers? And even though you know they might be what we define as successful, because I think success is different in different people's minds. You don't have to be this, you know, powerhouse of a woman to be happy and successful. There's different forms of it. But you think there's a lot of women out there that are people pleasers and that don't like to upset the apple cart. Like I know myself, I hate confrontation. And I'm getting a little bit better at it now. And certainly as I'm in my 40s, well into my 40s, I care less about what people think. Not that I care less about what they think, but it's more like, look, you know, not everyone's going to love you, and they're certainly not thinking about you, you know, so just get on with it. But I think as younger women, it's trickier, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's more like putting this older head on younger shoulders. You'd love to be able to, you know. But
it's part of the process of life, though. This is, again, it's like, I think you're right. Like when you hit 40, like everything changes. I don't know. It's like such a magical time. But I think, you know, going back to your question, do I think there's a lot of women are people pleasers? Yes. But also there's a lot of women who are not, you know. So I think we have to, you know, we have to be careful. I don't want to generalize because there's a lot of women who are not. But I think we are in this like hangover from this good girl syndrome, as I call it. And like my business is called Powerhouse Revolution because I feel like we are in the middle of a massive point in time where women are rising, as corny as it sounds, but like women are starting to own their voice and realize their worth and, you know, bring their gifts to the table so that they're able to, you know, make an impact in the world. And we can't do that if we're still being good girls, like in the sense of being quiet and, you know, being quiet when we're you know, if there was somebody more dominant than you in a room, I'd see that a lot where, like, again, it's the most successful women who are like, you know, making waves in the industries that they work in. But if they're in a room with, you know, a load of men, for example, a lot of the women I work with would work in male-dominated industries, like I work a lot in STEM. They tend to shrink and second-guess themselves and not say what they want to say and, you know, worry about, well, if I say it this way, how is it going to be perceived? So if I speak up, will I add value to the conversation? There's a lot of second-guessing that goes on with women, whereas I'm like, if you tune into like who you are and if you tune into like that powerful part of yourself and just listen to your gut and just like be you, like there's nothing more powerful. And if you feel like that, you're not going to care so much about what people think.
And how do we get women to do this then? How do we...
Come work with me.
But what do you say to people when they come to you about something like that?
So it's a process. Like, I mean, there's a process. So it's like, I think honestly, genuinely, you have to be at a certain stage in your life where you are, like, I really do think the 40s are the time where you really, okay, back up. So I know you're going to ask me later about the meaning of life. I think, yeah. Like each stage of our life, we are learning something about ourselves. And I think in your 20s, I think it's about, you know, you're having fun, you're trying to figure out who you are, you're just starting out in your career. This is standard, like typical, this is just not everyone. But then your 30s, like you're, you know, probably having children or wanting to or not. Maybe you're getting married, maybe you're, you know, you're very career focused in your 30s. And again, I'm generalizing here. And then I think when you get to your 40s, you kind of realize, okay, I have the success now. like a lot of the women I work with would say, like, you know, they've all this money and they've done really, really well. But it's like, what's it all for if I don't have a life? Like, what's it all for if I can't switch off from work? If I don't see my friends, like if I don't have a community that gets me, you know, like what's it all for? So I think it's just like, what was your original question there in that piece? You asked me something about, what did you say to me?
I can't remember. We've gone off on a tangent.
Kind
It
of
doesn't
gone off
matter.
on a tangent. We were. Next question. God.
I'm not cutting this. I'm going to keep it in. I can't. What was it?
You were saying, you were asking me like, what would I say to women who come to me with this stuff?
Yeah.
So it's a process is what I was saying. So I think you need to be ready to make the changes in yourself first.
Oh, yeah.
So I think if you're ready, it's like, okay, so for example, I have a 5-step process. I call it my 5-step self-leadership system, okay, that I would take my women through when it comes to managing your mindset. Like mindset, like if anyone takes anything from this podcast, I want it to be that like your mindset is the deciding factor in everything that you are, everything that you are becoming. It's everything. Like, and if you can learn to master your mindset and lead yourself, like everything is going to change for you. So I have a 5-step system. I call it my self-leadership system. And the first step, it's an acronym. It's ARISE. I can't talk. ARISE. So the first step is A, which is to assess. So the first thing you want to do is like, if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling less than, or you're having a knot in your stomach because, you know, you want to say something and you can't, or you want to go for promotion, or you want to, you know, start a business, whatever it is, you need to first assess what's going on up here in your mind. Mm-hmm. So it's like, right, get really curious about what situation specifically, the key word here is specifically, is triggering you to feel anxious or feel less than or feel not worthy, whatever that negative emotion is for you. So once you assess it, and again, like I would take my clients through this, and it's really good if you're doing it to do it on paper, because when we do it on paper, we activate that logical part of the brain and we can see it in black and white. So write it out. The second step then is to reflect. So it's like, okay, so now I know the situation that's triggering me to feel whatever negative emotion it is. Now I need to reflect on, okay, so what specific thoughts am I thinking in that situation? So I'm thinking of another client I had recently who is, again, phenomenal woman doing amazing things. And she is doubting her abilities in terms of moving to the next level in work. So she's at like a vice president level and she's being touted for a senior vice president level, and she's wondering, you know, will I be able to do this? And she has this kind of low level anxiety all the time when she's in work. So we were kind of unpacking what was going on for her. So it's about like assessing, what am I thinking? So in that example, just to make it real, it's things like, I can't handle it. I wouldn't do as good a job as my predecessor. Can I handle the pressure? Probably not. So it's all this negative talk that we're saying to ourselves, okay? So it's assessing like how that's making you, what you're thinking. As a result, what are those thoughts making you feel about yourself? Because every thought will trigger a feeling. And in most cases, it's like some physical manifestation in the body. So it might be, you know, racing heart, it might be sweaty palms, it might be knot in your stomach, it might be, you know, rapid breathing, whatever it is. And then you want to look at, okay, so now that I know I'm feeling that way, how do I behave? So how I behave is I stay quiet in meetings, or I don't take that risk I want to take in my business, or whatever it is. So then we're kind of clear on, okay, now we know what's triggering us, we know how we're thinking. Now it's time to look at the impact. So I is for impact. So what impact is this having on you and your own well-being? What impact is it having on your personal brand? So if you're a business owner or a female founder, or if you're in the corporate world, like we all have a personal brand. And sometimes we can act in a way that doesn't align to the brand we want to portray. So for example, you know, sometimes I can say for myself, like, I can get quite snappy with my kids, for example. Like, do I want to be seen as a snappy mother or somebody who, you know, might shout at my kids? And absolutely not. So when I bring myself back and I go through this system in my head, I'm able to go, okay, that's not how I want to be as a mother, or that's not how I want to be with my team, for example. So you get really clear on the impact to yourself, get really clear on the impact to others. And then you kind of start going, oh shit, this is not the impact that I want to be having. And then the next step in the method is S, which is the whole area of shifting your mindset. So this is where the magic happens. So this is where you'd go back to the thoughts that you've already, you know, you'll have written down, you're thinking X, Y, and Z. And it's about reframing the thoughts from thoughts that are like limiting you to thoughts that are more empowering. So instead of saying to yourself, I won't be as good as my predecessor, for example, you would say something like, I know I can do this, right? Or instead of
and take the predecessor out of it, as in like not even think about the predecessor. Is that it?
Yeah, or it's really individual. It's really what feels right for you. So like I would guide you through. Like I can't tell you what's going to hit with you. So it's about whatever's makes you go, actually that could be true. So it might be, yeah, my predecessor did it this way, but actually I have lots of skills that he or she doesn't have. So for example, again, don't let me go too off track, but a lot of women, as you climb up in big organisations, you're replacing male counterparts, because we know there's less women in senior leadership. And I think when a lot of women are stepping into a role after a strong male or even a strong female who has that dominant energy, and they are naturally more, people focused or empathetic, like that's not a good thing, okay? But it is a good thing. So it's like you can use your skills and stop trying to be like other people and just align with your strengths and your skills. So you'd kind of go through your thoughts, and again, that's why it's useful to have a coach or somebody impartial to help you to really challenge the way you're thinking about yourself, because you know you'll never speak to anyone as much as you do in your own mind. So you know it's really important that you choose how you speak to yourself. So you know you would reframe your thinking, and then usually when I get to this part of the process, I can see like a massive shift. So like I'll ask my clients like, okay, and how are you feeling about this now? And they're like, oh my God, like I feel so much better. Like why was I thinking that way? And I feel more calm. I feel more in control. I feel ready to step in. And as a result, their behaviour changes, and they do. And then the final step in the process is E, which is empower. So now that we kind of know, okay, I don't want to be thinking this way. I know that my thoughts influence my feelings. I know my feelings influence my behaviours, how I show up, who I am. The only thing I can ever do is change the situation or change how I think. So I'm going to change how I think. How do I do that? So this is where empower comes in, which is all about like creating positive affirmations that land with you, that are going to work for you. So for example, I would have said things to myself every single day, I still do, for years, like I am good enough. You know, I deserve success, or whatever it is for you. And you want to repeat them every single day. And when you do that, like we know from, you know, neuroscience that you can actually rewire like physical new neural connections in the brain by doing the likes of positive affirmations and things, which is really, really powerful. So yeah, that's like the system.
Okay. Isn't it true that if a job spec comes up, that a lot of the time, if a woman doesn't tick every single box on that job spec, she won't go for the role. Whereas a man, he might only tick 30% and he's like, oh, fuck it, I'll just go anyway. So is that a confidence thing? Or what is it about women that holds them back in that situation?
Love this question. So there was it was a HP study that was done a few years ago, and they found that, you know, women need to tick 100% of the boxes in order to apply for the job, whereas men need to tick 60% of the boxes.
Oh right, I was being a bit mean there, saying 30%.
Well, you're probably right.
I know some people that have gone 3%. Then they get the job and they're like, what?
How do I do that? Exactly.
Why am I here? Okay. Okay. So sorry, I cut across you there. Go on.
You're grand. Yeah. So is it confidence or what is it? Yeah. It's like, first, I mean, it's so many things. God, okay. It's perfectionism. So again, I'm talking to a certain type of woman now, not everybody, but like if you have high standards and you're a high achiever, you want things to be right and you want things to be of a certain standard. And because I think women like this they take their profession seriously, they take their role in society seriously, and they want to do such a good job, they nearly feel like they'd be doing the company a disservice if they step up because they're not able for the job. But then they don't, and then they see their male counterpart who's been walking around, you know, swanning around promoting himself, not doing the real work, getting the job, and they're like, what? Like, he got the job? What the fuck? Like, you know? So I think it's like, it's perfectionism, it's confidence, and it's actually, you know, there's only something like, I think it's like 6.5% of female CEOs or CEOs in the top Fortune 500 companies are female. Like, we don't have a lot of role models at that senior leadership level, like even in terms of female founders as well. Like, there's so many more now in the last few years, but if you look back as a generational thing, we didn't have those role models. So I think it's like men have always, if you think about like movies or anything to do with business, you know, if you think of business, I think man first.
Michael Douglas and Wall Street.
Exactly. So we don't think about that like as a default narrative for women, whereas like I'm like, no, we can do it. Like,
okay,
you know.
So do you think that younger girls seeing women nowadays be that role model will make it easier for them?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's about like, you know, I know for me, my mother stayed at home when I was a kid. Like, my mother baked apple tarts and sold them to local shops and things like that, because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mother with us. So I think I was the second person. I was the first girl in my entire family ever to go to college, like, you know. So I personally didn't have any role models in my family other than, like, my parents had a coffee shop, which was amazing, and they would have always had, like, you know, an entrepreneurial spirit and that they wanted to kind of make things happen. But I didn't really have anyone who went to college. I certainly didn't have anyone in that I knew who was a successful female, you know, founder or businesswoman. So I think it's now especially that's what I love about Instagram. I love the likes of like yourself, and, you know, you mentioned, we were chatting earlier, Marissa Carter, Suzanne Jackson, Pippa O'Connor, all those. I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go, because you're inspiring like the next generation of women. It's so much more than makeup and beauty and fashion. To me, it's like you're showing your audience that you can make it, like, and you can, you know, younger girls are now going to start. Like, that's why I follow those girls. I don't follow them for their products. I just follow them for their business. I just think it's so inspiring what they do.
No, it is really inspiring. But even it's so funny that you say that, because my little boys, so I have 3 boys, and you know, so I started the business last April, and then one of them, or the 2 little fellas, went up to, do you know what they did during the summer last year, and they want to do it again this summer now. They went up to Aldi, bought drinks in Aldi, and then stood outside Aldi selling them.
Love it.
At like a markup.
Amazing. Love it.
And, you know, neighbours would be walking by, obviously, and just give them more than they should have done. But they want to do that again. And then one of the little lads then wanted to go wash cars. But none of that was ever done prior to me launching my business, because obviously they see mum doing it, and obviously I'd be talking about business and how it works, and they see the effort that goes into it. Like, it isn't all, you know, it isn't all run around superwoman costumes all day. You know, the serious Laura, thought that has to go in.
Did you not just rock up in your costume? You just took it off.
But yeah, no, that is interesting. So we will have more of these women. But you were saying about the Fortune 500 and the lack of CEOs at that level. But isn't it true that women, as well, I suppose, as not having role models and maybe not having the confidence either, family life can hold women back an awful lot. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to those big companies where you literally have to give your blood, sweat and tears to, it can be very difficult to run a house, or to, you know, to bring your babies up and spend the time with them that you want as well. So women have a lot of things going on that prevents them from getting to that level too, isn't that right?
They do, but it also goes down to mindset around accepting support. And I hate the word help, because, you know, we know from, like I say, in my coach training, I would have obviously learned a lot about how the mind works and things. And if you are accepting help, it means you're a victim. It means that somebody else is more powerful than you. Whereas the word support means I'm meeting you where you're at. So I think, first of all, women need to stop thinking about asking for help is a weakness. I would reframe that word to support, because it's somebody alongside you and you deserve it, right? But like, going back to your question about women and all of that stuff, I fully agree with you. But I work with women who are at, are responsible for $1 billion in revenue, and they're at SVP level, and they have young children. Okay. And I've been able to work with them to show them how they can have it all. You can have it all, but you have to be willing to get really structured. You have to be willing to manage your time efficiently. You have to learn how to properly delegate, how to use your resources to the best, how to, know where to make an impact, have that, self-discipline to be able to do your strategic thinking so that the fires that you're fighting today don't pop up in 6 months' time. We're great at putting off the strategic stuff, because it's not giving us a quick win. So there's a lot of things you can do, but I think that's why, especially anyone at that level, everyone should have a coach at that level, because that's what coaches do. It's like, we help you to be able to kind of have it all. So I think, going back to your question, like, it is hard, but it's doable. But you can be a great mother. Like, I have one client, it's coming to mind, I think it's a really good story. She came to me last year. We're working together over a year now, and she was totally burnt out. She was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She was working till stupid o'clock at night. She was managing different time zones. She had young children, and she really thought she was going to pack it all in. Like, she was like, what am I doing this for? Like, I have no life. I have all this money, and I have all the designer stuff I want, but I just don't have a life. And we started working together, and like, literally everything has changed. Like, I taught her how to properly prioritize, how to push back, how to delegate, how to manage her team more effectively, what to delegate to her team, being okay with delegation and trusting your team instead of having to do everything yourself. Because I think as women, a lot of women, we tend to be perfectionists, and we just want to do it ourselves. We want to make sure it's right. But if you want to get to the next level, or if you want to build your business, or if you want to be a CEO or whatever it is, like, what got you to where you are now is not going to get you to where you want to be. So you have to learn to put like structure in place, which affords you the time that you want, so you can actually enjoy the fruits of your labour. Because what's the point if you're just working all the time?
Well, that's it. But there's an awful lot of mum guilt out there too. So, and I'd have it myself as well. You never feel you're giving quite enough to your kids, or to your work, or to your this or that, and like, I mean, there is a lot of that too. And I wouldn't have been satisfied being a stay-at-home mother, but the flip side of that was whenever I was in work in the dispensary, I'd be thinking I was missing out on my kids, or not spending enough time with them when I was off work because I was knackered, and trying to do everything, and then trying to squeeze in a little bit of me time. So how do women get over that guilt that a lot of dads don't have? They say, I have to go to work because I have to make money to keep a roof over our heads and feed everyone. And they don't have that same kind of guilt that mums have, I think. A lot of them, I'm generalising here, but like, it is one of those things that women have to, Jesus Christ, we're really scarred, aren't we? Between feeling like as if we have to be good girls, feeling like as if we have to be amazing mothers. There is a lot of pressure on us. But you said something really interesting, and I know I asked you a question there and I kind of answered it myself. You said something really interesting at the very start, and you said, it's a lot of it is women themselves. Yeah, it's all being mean to each other as well, or like being very critical of either themselves and other women. And you would never have heard a man say, oh, she's crap at her job, but you would have heard a woman say that about another woman. And why do you think that is? Why are women so critical of each other?
Jealousy.
Really?
Yeah, it's jealousy and envy. I would have been that person myself. Like, I'm as direct as I am. I'm really like compassionate. I'm really empathetic, and I'm just so 100% myself. Like, I would have been.
I'm so 100% jealous.
I'm so 100% jealous, Laura. No, but I would have been jealous of people, like for sure. Like, but again, nobody teaches you how to deal with these feelings. This is why I'm hoping people will listen today. Is like, if you feel jealous of somebody, celebrate that. I'm all about, like, if I'm jealous of somebody, I'm like, yes, I'm jealous. Okay, what does that mean? It means I want something they have. It means I'm envious of them. So instead of me wasting my energy, wishing that other person wasn't so successful, or going, look at her, who does she think she is with her gorgeous hair and lovely fringe and no, but you know what I mean? It's like, whatever it is, it's like, okay, there's something there that's triggering me because I want something that this person have. So you've only got two choices in that instance. You can, number one, continue to beat up on somebody else and try to tear them down, or you can learn from them. You can learn from them and try to actually get that for yourself. And I think if more women did that, like, what a different world we would live in. Like, I'm jealous of nobody. Or if I feel jealousy, I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Like, what does she, like, say for you, for example, I'm not jealous. I'm a bit, actually, that you run around in your costume all day. I want to do that. No, but seriously, say the likes of that, right? There's just a really good example. I'd see you like doing your gorgeous reels. I just think they're just so funny. And sometimes I'm just like, oh God, I wish I could do that. But then it's like, okay, maybe I need to talk. I don't really want to do that, I don't think, but maybe I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
Yeah.
But it's a confidence thing. It's like you have the confidence to go out there and do things. And there's going to be people who are watching you, who are going to be, you know, in their little WhatsApps going, did you see your one? And like, no, but this is what they do. Like, this is what people fucking do. Like, but it's only people who are not putting themselves out there that are doing that. You'll never see another woman who is, I don't think, who is putting themselves out there and trying to make something of herself, tear another woman down, because you know how hard it is, like, so hard.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. And I find it interesting that you're talking about jealousy and you're being so open about it, because it's not a nice trait to have. Mm-mm. And it does make sense, but it is awful, that kind of like bitchiness that we're going. But you know the way you were saying, like, when a woman is assertive, she's considered to be a bitch, but she's considered to be a bitch by other women. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've
never heard a man say that. And people say this to me all the time, obviously in my role, like, you know, that exactly what you asked me about women. But honestly, I've never heard a man saying she's a bitch, or because she was direct, or she spoke up for herself, or because she was assertive in a meeting. I think as women, we need to stop being threatened by each other and just support each other, because imagine what we could do together as a collective.
I 100% agree. And, you know, there's room for everyone at the table. And even when people, you know, come to me and say, oh, I'm thinking of starting an Instagram account, or I'm thinking of doing this or that. Like, I get little young ones, some little pharmacists, you know, or even just random people. I always say, do it. Like, and this is what you should do. And you know, you should do this, that and the other thing, and do more reels. People love to see your videos. They don't want to see static posts. They want to get to know your personality. And even just giving those little tips to people, and they go off, and sure, it'd be great to see someone go off and do brilliantly doing something like that. But I definitely think there's room for everyone, and there is something there for everyone's talents, or what they're able to do. So no, I totally agree with that. Yeah, and then if there's another woman out there in a business that's similar to your own, it isn't, I don't think it's actually competition, because I think the more people that are doing the same thing, it just brings the more awareness to that role and that job. And it means then other people are looking at it and saying, oh, well, there's two ladies doing coaching now on Instagram. Isn't that great? And I think you bring people along with you and make everyone more aware of the job that you have, rather than, you know, the way if there was another coach online that could be like potentially, like, in inverted commas, stealing your business. Yeah. I don't believe that that's what happens. I think that we all raise each other up.
100%.
So if anyone wants to go out there now and buy a Superwoman outfit, I will fully...
We're going to do a reel,
I will fully celebrate it, and I will share it. So tag me in it, and I will share you doing Superwoman, because anyone can do that.
I think though, like, you know, going back to what you were saying, it's about your mindset. This is why I'm so passionate about mindset. You know, you either have an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset. If you're in scarcity, it means, you know, there's not enough room for me at the table. You know, I'm going to start my business, and all of a sudden when you start a business, you realise there's like thousands of other businesses like yours, and you're like, shit, I thought mine was so unique, right? And then you start kind of beating up on yourself and blah, 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 blah. Or you can shift into an abundance mindset, which is exactly what you have, which is like, you know, there's enough room for all of us. I'm exactly the same. You know, people, I have a client, you know, I'm helping her set up her business. Like, she's my direct competition, but I want to teach her what I've done, because then together we can make more of an impact, because the more women we can support, the more, like, you know, we're going to change the world. So I think, you know, I had another girl I'm just thinking of, there's so many women, say, who would have candle making or wax melt businesses, for example, right? And I'm just thinking of one girl I know, and we were talking about competition, and she was saying, you know, her competition were kind of spying on her and she didn't want to give away her secrets. And I'm like, God, imagine if you collaborated together. Like, imagine you did a collaboration. Like, you know, it's just all about, we need to stop with this scarcity mindset. We need to move into, my kids are laughing if they're going to listen to this. I'm at home and I'm always like, I am abundant. Come on, guys, let's just say it. And they're like, Mommy, will you just stop with the abundance?
I must start saying that to my kids, actually, because I do think it. I do think it, but I don't verbalise that abundance word. So I must start saying that, because it's a nice little mindset for children to grow up with.
100%.
And think that there's so much in the world and it's theirs for the taking, isn't that right?
That's it.
See, I have 3 lads though. Should they be thinking that anyway themselves? Cocky buggers and money
No, but still though,
no,
I think as in Ireland in particular, you know, we've grown up, we still are in this hangover from famine times, and like, you know, everything is lack and we don't have enough. We didn't have enough potatoes. We didn't have enough in the 80s, you know, all this kind of stuff. But like, times have changed, like, so I think it's the more, you know, Irish people, and again, I'm generalising, please don't come at me, but like, we need to get into this mindset of abundance, that there's enough for all of us, there's enough to go around, and the more we support each other and the more we lift ourselves up, each other up, like, just the better. But we
don't want going full on American, the way they're just, you know,
I don't know.
They're too the other way, I think.
They're happy. What's wrong with it? Why are we begrudging happiness?
I suppose you're right, but I just think some of it's false, as in like, hello, how are you today, sir? You know, but maybe that's my mindset that I have to shift.
I think that I would have been the same. Like, and this is something that comes up, oh, it's so American. What's wrong with being happy? What's wrong with going to have a great day?
I suppose.
We're just like, stop.
It just feels false. I suppose culturally we are a little bit more moany, aren't we?
Yes. Like,
Asher, Jesus, would you look at the weather? Isn't it awful?
See, I can't deal. That's why I don't have a lot of friends, because like, I have a very close circle, because I'm a bitch, I'm assertive and direct. I just don't get into
you're right,
negativity.
Nobody does like you.
Tissues.
But you don't need a lot of friends. So I have loads of people that I'm friendly with, loads and loads, and I've talked about this before on other podcasts that I've done. But you know, I've like 5 people I could really rely on in my life, and probably 3 of them are my family. No, I'm joking, but do you know what I mean? I don't think that I think, well, some people put a lot of emphasis on friends, and some people do need a lot of friends around them, but then other people are quite self-sufficient and like their own company.
100%. And I think like, the reason that I kind of don't is because I just don't enter into negativity. I just don't like gossip. I don't like talking about other people. I don't like moaning about the weather. Like I'm really annoyingly positive. Like,
okay.
I'm annoying. And I wouldn't say I'm toxic. I can be toxic positive.
Toxic positive.
I can be toxic positive.
Yeah.
I need to be told by my kids, Mommy, stop. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
But I'm quite positive. I just try to see, because for so long I wasn't.
Okay, so this is something that has shifted with you, because I grew up in a house where my mum was always a very positive person, and because people say to me, oh my God, you have great confidence, like you're a mad joke going out in a Wonder Woman outfit, like in the public in your 40s, and like, what in the name of God, how do you have so much confidence? But it literally boils down to, I think my mum was just, some of it's in you as well, because I think too, but my mum would have told me every day, oh, you're gorgeous and you're so clever and you're this and you can be whatever you want. And I would have been like, not gorgeous or, you know,
stop.
No, but you know what I mean? But my mum did, and probably excessively. Like, I remember going, Mum, there is no way. Like, I remember studying for my finals. I'd put on loads of weight. I was, you know, my tracksuit would have been like bet onto me or whatever. And Mum would still be like, oh, you're gorgeous. My hair would have been greasy. It would have been spotty. I was not pretty, but Mum would have still told me that I was. And I think that builds confidence in you growing up. Am I right?
I think so, but I think it's like, I think so often we think of beauty and being gorgeous as something on the outside, whereas
no, she meant it inside and outside, definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like when I look at you, like I'm very like, what's the word? Like, I'm quite spiritual. I'm not like psychic or anything, but I'm quite energetic. Like, I can see, like, you have such a light, like you can see it in your eyes, like you have such a, like, I don't know, you have like a gift, like.
Some people call it crazy.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm just trying to be nice here. No, but you do. So your mum was probably just saying that, like, you could always probably see that little devil was inside.
Oh, yeah. Total devil, absolutely. So the second thing that you bring people along, so you have the ARISE acronym initially, then what's the next step then for them?
So that's like for people, I suppose, in terms of the whole area of self-leadership, but like, it depends on what people want. Like, it depends on what I'm working with you on. So a lot of what I love doing is helping people manage conflict at work.
Oh, this is huge.
Yeah.
I'd love to know a little bit about this,
Yeah,
because
ask.
you shirk away from conflict at work. I always did. And, you know, it can be a tricky one. And especially if you're in an environment where there's all women.
Mm-hmm.
It can be tricky, or even dealing with men too. So yeah, so tell me how people should deal with conflict. Head on, tell someone what you think of them and just move forward, or not?
You know I'm direct, Laura, so yes, no,
Okay.
no. No, it depends on the situation, like, you know, so I'm all about, again, like my whole business, the whole reason I do what I do is because I want to help you be the most successful, you know, achieve everything that you want to in the world without burning yourself out or missing out on life. So I don't want any woman, you know, not being able to sleep, worrying about something that happened at work, or, you know, having to make a really difficult decision with a team member and like procrastinating on it for days, because like this just takes from...
That's what I do all the time.
Yeah, it takes from your energy and it takes from your mission and what you're trying to achieve. So, yeah, so I kind of do both. So when it comes to team stuff, I mean, there's lots of different things. Like it's the hardest part of, you know, running a business or running a department or whatever is managing the people. But I think it's because, yeah, we shy away from conflict because, again, we're not taught how to do it. So, for example, if you're in work and if you're managing a team and you notice conflict, like between two team members, for example, 95% of leaders will just leave it. They'll say nothing, even though energetically and intuitively you know there's something brewing. And you're going to hope that it goes away and that they'll sort it out themselves, but it doesn't. So like as a leader, it's your job like to nip that in the bud, like at the start, before it becomes something that really doesn't need to be. And it all comes back to miscommunication. So, you know, a lot of the work I would do would be helping women to understand like mindset. Again, it goes back to that all the time, like why certain people or certain cultures, like obviously we live in a very diverse world now. Culturally, you know, we mentioned about the Americans and the Irish, like we're different, and it's about helping women or helping leaders really to understand the different cultures and to actually be okay and go, like, just because someone is direct with you. I'm thinking of a girl I used to manage. She was from like somewhere in South America, and like she's just really like a really, really direct person. Like she would say things that would upset people, but she wasn't intending on it. It was just how the other people were kind of receiving it. So it's about trying to work together with the people to get them to understand, like, you know, you have your beliefs, you have your values, I have my beliefs and my values. Neither of us are wrong, but like we have to learn to be able to actually work together on this. And we can only do that, there's only one way we can ever do that, which is accepting the other person.
Okay.
So often we try to change other people, but we can't. So all we can do is change ourselves.
Okay. So in terms of if there is conflict, you say nip it in the bud from the get-go rather than wishing it goes away. I'm a bit of a wisher that it goes away. Well, was before I kind of doing my own thing. Now I'm a bit better at managing that.
It's more just about, like, if you notice something, you just nip it in the bud. It doesn't have to be a big thing where you're like, it can be just a simple matter if you notice there's tension between two team members and you're in a meeting and one of them rolls their eyes, or you know what I'm talking about. You feel it. It's just about in that moment, like after the meeting, like asking the person to stay back and can I just have a quick word with you? Like the rest of the team knows exactly why you're doing it. And that's usually enough to kind of stop it. Whereas if you allow those kind of behaviours to continue, you get end up with a really toxic workplace.
Or if you allow gossip to happen, you know, or you are part of the gossip, as in you're actively involved in the gossiping, you're encouraging that kind of behaviour too. So you shouldn't be a gossiper either. Is that right?
Well, it's not like, again, that word should. I'm not going to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't do. If you want an easier life, don't gossip. Like if you want to get more from your team, try to instill a culture of, you know, collaboration and more positivity. Like instead of starting every meeting with, right, what are the problems? Let's start with celebration. Like I love the science of positive psychology because it's all about, you know, gratitude and celebration and leaning into the positive side of us, because actually we know that even like scientifically we know that there's serious health benefits. There's tons of studies out there that show that when you practice gratitude, you raise your vibrational frequency when you're more high vibe, you're going to attract more abundance, you're going to attract more good things into your life. So, some of my clients have started doing that in their teams now. They start their meetings with, right, like I start every single call with my groups that I have and every single team meeting as well. Okay, so what's going well for you today? Instead of like, right, what's wrong? Like, how can I help you? What's going really well for you today? Or what's gone well? Or what are you celebrating? People love it. Nobody ever asks us that. So like start meetings with like a positive note. And then it's like, okay, I'm feeling good now. Now I can solve the problems. As opposed to starting with the problems and then you get worse and worse and worse.
I'm having a team meeting tomorrow. I'm going to do that. First thing I'm going to do is what's going good today? Okay.
Or like what are you celebrating? Like, so it could be home, it could be work, it could be anything.
And what you ask each individual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it just, like people, some of my team, I'm just thinking last week, one of my team, she's like, and that's what I love about, she's travelling the world at the moment, but we're able to make it work. She's in Peru, I think, at the moment, So she'll come on and she'll be like, I was in Colombia yesterday and, I did a dance with the local people and and then she'll go like, we fixed this process in work, like in my business, and now it's working really well. And it gives a lot of energy back to the people who are around. So if you imagine you go around, like I have a team of 5, so by the time everyone shares what's been going well, like everyone's feeling happy then to kind of get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, interesting.
There you go now.
I'm definitely taking that one home too.
There you go.
So no procrastination and no loads of emails, and then also start your day with, so what's going well today? And what if Debbie Downer just says nothing's going well?
This is where a coaching approach comes in.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is where you go like, okay, nothing is going well. I'll just think about it for a second. There has to be something.
Okay.
And be totally silent.
Okay. So don't try and talk for them. We don't like silence. Because we feel we need to fill the air with words, when sometimes saying nothing is better.
It's the most powerful thing you can do. Like in my coach training, like that's what we're taught. If I'm in a private coaching 1-to-1 session, like I allow a lot of space, a lot of silence, because all the aha moments, all the light bulb moments, they don't come when you're talking. They come when there's silence. And people say to me, I got a client last week and she texted me afterwards and she's like, I can't believe I had just so many light bulb moments like in 45 minutes. And it's because she had time and space to process. She had somebody, a safe space to be able to voice what was going on and to problem solve. Whereas so often we just move so fast, like everything is let's just move and we don't have time to think. So that's why I love coaching so much. I love private, like 1-to-1 coaching, because you just, to be able to give another woman space to process, to think, so she can improve herself, to unlock the best version of herself. Just literally, it's everything. I never want to stop working. Like,
I find that interesting, the whole silence thing, because so many, and I'd be like that myself. Because even when I was talking with you there earlier, you answered a question and you didn't like continue on the conversation. I was like, I need to get in there now quickly with the next question so that there isn't too much silence. But actually, silence is good, and it's nice for people to just be able to take those moments to think.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, if you're again, I'm talking to people who lead teams, but I also, I'd work in organizations and I do like talks and stuff like that as well. For anyone who's a speaker, and like I'm working on this now because I do talk quite fast. Silence. It's like leaving that little bit of silence, especially if there's something that you want people to take away. It's like just leaving that little pause, because our brains take a couple of seconds to process what's being said, So allow the person to experience what you're trying to say.
Okay. And then in meetings, our silence is okay, like in team meetings?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like if you wanted to say apply a coaching approach, like with your team, for example, in meetings, as leaders, we tend to think, and this is a massive misconception, that because we're the founders or the CEOs or because we are the boss, we have to have all the answers. Actually, no, real leaders create other leaders, and you only do that by allowing them to fail, by allowing them the opportunities to come up with the solutions. It mightn't be exactly the way you do it or what you would have thought of, but it's providing space. So, the next time there's a problem, when somebody comes to you and they ask you a question, you could just go, okay, and like, what do you think? What's your opinion? It's going to do a couple of things. It's going to be like, oh my God, she values my opinion. And number two, you're going to like develop that person. You're going to help them to think. And so if you allow the silence, it's like short, coaching is all about short, powerful questions, short. So it's like, and what do you think? And it's like reflecting back their language. Okay, so I heard you say that I think, and you're really good at that actually. You're a really good listener, like active listening. I can see you're really present, like so this would be no problem for you to do this. It's like reflecting back your team's exact language and go, okay, I heard you say this. I think that's a really good idea. What would you think of this? You know, and it's just all about questioning and providing space and allowing them time to process and think. And you'd be amazed when you start to kind of allow those little spaces, little pockets in your business to be able to do that. Like that, they're the moments you develop your next superstars, you know?
Mm. Wow, yeah. I'm taking a lot from this. I think I want to sign up for a coaching session with you after this. So what are the other important things that women need to realise then about themselves? So that's one question. And then the second question I have is, how easy is it for someone to pivot out of the role they're currently in and change their life? Because it is a scary world out there. I was scared to bits when I decided to leave pharmacy and go and do this, like leave the dispensary, the day-to-day work in the dispensary. And it was scary. And even financially for people, you know, if they are earning a good salary and they then suddenly have to do something totally different that they don't know is going to be successful or not, where does that come in? Because there are people out there that would love to change, but they're like tied. It's like the golden handcuffs, isn't it? They're in work. They've got a mortgage to pay or whatever. Yeah. Do people come to you with those issues too?
Yeah, like I don't do career coaching. Like that's kind of different. I don't do career coaching, but like I have obviously had conversations. I've have people who would come to me who are like totally burnt out. They think they want to leave and stuff like that. But so for me, I think it's like, it's about tapping in to your calling. I know it sounds so fucking corny, but like it's the truth.
No, that's the truth. Because if you don't love what you're doing, then you'll fairly soon be miserable, or else. But maybe you can compartmentalise. You can do your job and it's your 9 to 5, and then you can go home and switch off and be present at home doing whatever you need to do at home. So there are people that are happy doing that too. So we're speaking specifically to people that want to do that change. I know there's loads of people out there, even people in my family currently.
It's the scariest thing that you and I both know. Like it's so scary. Like I literally, like I turned 40, and I remember when I was a kid, my aunt, she was like really, her husband was like in finance. They were really wealthy. They had these beautiful properties, and you know, they used to take us skiing and like all these like fabulous experiences. Like they'd fly around in helicopters and all. It was so cool. I wasn't, but they did. And I remember going to one of my aunt's like gorgeous, like it was a beautiful old manor house. And I remember being in there, and she had this golden key ring, and in it, like it was embossed, and it said, life begins at 40. Now, nobody else in my family remembers this key ring, only me. Which is why I think it's really important that you pay attention to those standout moments in your life. You know, those little moments that they're all little signs that are pointing you along to where you're supposed to be. So when I hit 40, I just knew instinctively. It was like I had been waiting for 40 subconsciously my whole life since I saw this key ring. And I knew I was ready for me to make a change, because working with coaches literally just completely changed who I was. I went from like not liking myself, you know, seeing so many women doubt themselves, hold themselves back, burn themselves out, you know, not have time to enjoy their lives because they're working so hard. And I had kind of overcome all of that. And at the same time, my father-in-law really sadly passed away. Oh, don't cry. But after a 6-week battle with cancer in September 2020, he had a brain tumour, and like he was totally healthy. Everything was fine. And then within 6 weeks, he was gone. And it was 2 days after his funeral, I started my coaching course. I had already signed up to it. So it was all around that time I started this kind of spiritual awakening in terms of like what I'm here to do on this planet. I had done so much work on myself, like I said to you, about my negative mindset and like not liking myself. And then the final piece, when my father-in-law passed away, I just kind of went, fuck, like life is so fragile. Like we could be gone in a heartbeat. Like I've always wanted to start a business, and now I found a way to really love who I am and feel good in who I am. Like never thought I'd be able to say that. I'm super efficient, super productive. I have all of these people skills. Like I want to help other women to do this. So I had this like, this kind of calling inside me, just going, literally this voice was going, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then the other voice was going, fuck no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I remember I was in my bedroom at home, and I was on the cusp of the decision, should I stay, should I go? I didn't have a lot of savings. I was on a good salary. My husband works, but we have a mortgage, we have 3 children. It's not like I had 100 grand in the bank there that I could just, leave and hope it would work. So I was going, right, I'll save now and I'll leave in like 2 years. But like inside I knew I just couldn't do another 2 years. I was done. And I remember like I had this twitch in my eye, my eye just kept twitching, it wouldn't stop, and I had this like low level anxiety all the time. And it's because it was my body telling me, Lucy, it's time. Like if you're not going to listen to what I'm telling you from the inside, your body, you're going to just look like an idiot walking around with this twitch in your eye until you listen. And I remember I was walking through my bedroom one day, and a friend of mine had given me Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Got Your Back. And I swear to God, it's no word of a lie. I was walking through my room, and the book literally fell off the locker at my feet as I was thinking, like, do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? And then I looked down at my feet, and it was the book, and it was The Universe Has Got Your Back. And I just knew in that moment that again, it was another sign that, okay, it's going to be okay. I'm abundant. I'm going to get out of this scarcity mindset. I'm going to be able to make it. I'm going to make this happen. And, my husband was so supportive. Like, couldn't have done it without him and my family and my coach people, my coachy friends, who were all like, just do it. Like you're going to make us, you're so driven and ambitious anyway. It's going to work. So I just had to have faith that it was going to work. So I think for anyone who's listening, it's like, if you have a drive, like you have to be driven in business. I think you have to be ambitious. You can't just hope it works out. Like, you have to have a vision, and you have to want it.
And you almost need to think you want even bigger than what you actually want, because that's the only way you'll get to even the place where you want to be. Isn't that right?
That's what they say, but it's something that can be scary when you're just starting out, like, like, I don't know, like people say, 10x your goals, but for me, like 10x of my goals is like multiple millions. Like so if you would have told me in corporate, that to me was way too daunting when I was starting, say. So I was like, no, if I can just make, 6 figures in my first year, I'll be happy, which was...
I'm not even talking money though. I'm talking more where you think you could be with your business, not financially. I'm talking more like, I want to be... Like, for instance, if you say yourself, I want to be the biggest, I don't know, nutritional supplement blend in Ireland or something like that. Like, that's the way you have to think in order to even be a little bit good.
Yeah.
So,
you have to, that has to come from inside though, doesn't it? Like,
without a doubt.
Doesn't it? Like, I think if you, like, you obviously have a vision for your business, right? Like, do you want to be the biggest?
I want to make a difference to people's lives.
Yeah.
And not just in Ireland, in other countries. And do you know what, even saying that, the little girl in me is going, oh God, you shouldn't say that out loud, because you sound like as if you're really cocky. But it's good to be able to say that out loud and be honest and say, I would love to have a successful brand that can stand on its own 2 feet as well, and that people know of it. And it isn't just known by me, it's known by itself. So the fabÜ brand is known by itself. I'd love that to happen.
And why do you find it hard to say that? Like,
I suppose because it sounds like as if, oh good, because it's that, oh, would you look at her?
And who's saying that?
Me, only me, because no one else is. And if they are, then, you don't need them in your lives anyway, and they're not going to say it to your face. So it doesn't really matter, does it?
Exactly.
But like that. So so people would see the outwardly confident Laura and think, oh, she's very, very confident. But there's the inner voice saying to you all the time, I suppose, a little bit of that going, oh goodness, Yeah. So
but that's like, I think that's taken away your power, because I think there's nothing wrong with like what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do. It's not for me. It's I want to make an impact. Like, I want to help support other women. I want to help make your life easier. I want to help you know, you to achieve your vision, your mission. So to me, saying that, it's not conceited, it's not about me, it's about trying to impact as many women as I can.
And make a living from it at the same time.
And make a living at the same time. But it's the same for you. It's like, I think we should voice what we want.
Okay, well, that's what I want.
Yes, because then you give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. And if I hear another woman, or another man, but another woman in particularly, say they want to do something, I, you know, clap them on, and absolutely, I'm delighted for them. So yeah, you should be able to say it for yourself too.
Because you know what, like the people who are judging you are like, they're not paying your bills, right? And I remember when I was starting my business, I was terrified, like I mean beyond terrified, to get visible, because like, again, going back to what I told you earlier, I was always terrified of judgment. I always thought other people didn't like me. So for me to put myself out there to be judged, like, was literally, I can't even tell you the anxiety. As my kids always say, I always say to my kids, my anxiety is through the roof. My anxiety was through the roof.
Yeah.
And like, I remember, especially in work, like there was a few, you know, there's always one or two, you're like, oh God, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? And I just had this light bulb moment, which was like, first of all, they're not feeding my kids, like they're not paying my bills. But second of all, if I didn't do this, and God forbid something happened to one of these people tomorrow, I would have like held myself back and not done what I wanted for somebody who's now like not even, like, I'm not wishing anything bad, you know what I'm trying to say?
But not a part of your life. Or
not a part of my life. Or like if they died in the morning, God forbid, that's not what I wanted. I don't mean that. But I was kind of going, you know, you're afraid of all of these different people. But actually they could be gone in an instant, right? You could be gone in an instant. And I don't want to have any regrets.
Yeah.
But what the funny thing was, is the people who I was terrified would judge me were the very ones who were going, oh my God, fair play to you. I can't believe you're leaving. And Jesus, like so many people would say to me afterwards, I can't believe, you know, you've been so successful so quickly, and all these things, like, and it was all from the people I thought would judge me. So it just goes to show, like.
No, it does. And I remember when I first even started out on my social media, and I've always been a little bit eccentric, and you know, I love the cracks. So I'd be dancing in the dispensary. I remember at one stage going, or not at one stage, but I remember thinking, God, I wonder what like other pharmacists, my peers, will think of me. Like, they think I'm an awful idiot, but in actual fact, they've been nothing but supportive. So, and if they're not, they're saying it behind my back.
But that's because like
I'm
everyone innately,
I'm not hearing the negative.
We want to have fun, right? But I think that's what I love about your part of your brand, and I hope you never lose that. Is like you give people permission just to be silly and just to have the crack.
Sit
and
in the toilet.
You know,
Video themselves sitting in the toilet.
Walk around in the vagina, like,
I know.
You know, whatever goes, you know.
Yeah.
But I just think it's really important, because I think I was talking to my own coach about this. It's about like professionalism is really important to me. And she said to me, she was like, yeah, but do we not need to redefine what professionalism means? You know, because I was talking about like in my brand, like, can I actually curse? Like I would, you know, I would swear at home, and like, you know, do I bring that part to my business? But you have to be authentic. Like you have to be who you are.
And you know what? You can be professional, and you can have an education or not, but be very professional, but still bring your own personality through. And I think that if you don't, then you're losing something there. And as you say, it's all about authenticity as well, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
I could stay talking to you for ages. I could bring you through the 5 steps, but sure, that would be you giving all away all your trade secrets as well. I'm sure you don't want to do that.
I don't mind though. I don't ask me anything.
What are the 3 other steps then? Because you did mention you bring people through 5 steps. So you started the first one was the acronym. The second one was.
Well, sorry, the acronym is the 5. That
is the 5 steps.
That's
sorry,
for the self-leadership piece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's self-leadership then.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were the 5. So I was thinking I need to get through the next 3 steps, but no. So we've covered all of them off.
Yeah.
Then. Okay.
For that particular part.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what other parts do you do with people then? As opposed, that's the self-leadership. So then what's the leadership part then that people need help with?
Yeah. So I would
do. You want some more water there? I see you looking.
No, I thought it was a fly.
Oh right, no flies.
No flies on you, Laura.
It's too cold in here for there to be flies.
So I would do a lot of work with companies on different trainings. So prioritization and workload management. I love that, because it's like, again, I'm all about work-life balance. So I'm very much like, if you're in work to work. You know, get your work done. Don't procrastinate. Get the big shit out of the way early in the day so that you can actually switch off and have an evening. So I have a training, I call it Prioritise Like a Pro CEO, where, you know, I will take people through like how how to be more productive. Like, it's so boring, and you know, you have to be disciplined to do it, which is where the self-leadership comes in, you know. So I would do that stuff as well, and obviously I do a lot on confidence, and there is a fly. I knew there was a fly.
Oh, there is.
Fly.
It's dead now.
A lot on confidence as well, a lot on conflict management as well.
Okay.
Communication, understanding your colleagues, so important.
And it's the communication piece as well. And isn't it trying to not put a square peg into a round hole?
Mm-hmm.
And organisations can be guilty of trying to make everyone do the same job, or, you know, say, for instance, in the pharmacy that everyone should be IT efficient. But you're going to get people that are a little bit older that aren't necessarily proficient when it comes to IT, but they're really good out yapping away to people. So put them in the role that they're good at, so they don't feel constantly as if they're underperforming.
Yeah.
Would you say that to people as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's like we hire people and we think, first of all, the biggest mistake people make is thinking that people are going to work like you. You know, you're going to be very lucky if you find, you know, I have a right-hand girl who works with me, and we literally finish each other's sentences. We work really fast. You know, we multitask a lot. We don't even have to talk. We just communicate with energy. Like, it's crazy. Like, we just get each other. But then I have other people on my team who don't work that way. And, you know, you can't make people work that way. You have to be able to embrace their strengths. So, for example, I hired a girl to do one aspect of my business, and it wasn't working out. She wasn't doing what I needed or what I expected, but I liked her. And she had a good skill set. So now she's doing something on my podcast for me instead, you know. So I think it's about stop beating people up for, you know, let people use their strengths and stop, you know, wishing they were a certain way and all of that, and just like try to play with their strengths. But then on the flip side, I always hear as well, especially for women who work in large organisations who are at senior level, and they might have people who were also at a senior level reporting to them. So say maybe they're VPs and they have directors reporting to them. And I go, God, at their level now you think they'd be able to do it, and they get really frustrated that they're not performing. But actually, have you communicated explicitly enough? Are they clear in their priorities? Do they know exactly when you say, I want you to do this presentation for me? Do they know exactly what you want? Because the biggest mistake, again, and many leaders make, is we make assumptions all the time that other people think how we think, and other people know like what we want from them, but they don't. So if you feel like you're over communicating to your team, you're doing a good job.
Okay. And it's about really letting them know the job that you need them to do.
Like being explicit. Like I would be like double clicking on the words. So when I tell you, you know, I'd be like dates, times, like everything I do is smart. Like, and my team love it, because it's like, who doesn't like direction? Who doesn't like to know exactly what your boss wants from you? Like, there's nothing as bad as somebody giving loose direction, and then you're trying to understand, what do they mean by that? Do they want me to do it this way? Do they want me to do it that way? She said probably by Thursday, but then she also asked me to do these other 5 things on Thursday. Right, I'm just going to focus on these things because these are much easier, because I don't understand what she actually meant by this. And then Thursday comes and you're going, why didn't you get this done?
Okay.
It's because you asked me to do 5 other things and you weren't clear on exactly what my priorities were. So say with my team, I'll be like, right, you know, first of all, are you clear? Like, are you clear on your priorities? And I'll get them to repeat back to me. I'll be like, yeah, so you want me to do this? And I'll go, and when specifically do you think that we need this? And then they'll go, oh, okay, 3rd Wednesday. Okay, great. And is there anything else due on Wednesday? Yeah, there's this other thing. So it's about always, like, I would never leave a team meeting without getting my team to reflect back to me what they know their priorities are, because once they tell me, it's not about me telling them, I need to be sure we're both on the same page. And again, it just goes back to that explicit communication. Just makes life a lot easier. You're scared, are you?
No. I'm taking a lot in from this, actually. I think it's great. But like that, I, you know, like what you said, I hired someone back in October. I knew that they were really good at video editing, say. And so I thought, we'll get them in to do the video editing from social media, and also get them to do podcast, and also get them to do this. But in actual fact, their natural talent is social media, and being good at, you know, and directing, I suppose, the little videos that I do and all of that. So they are full-time doing that now, and they're not doing any of the crap that I thought that I initially wanted them to do, with someone else doing that. So it is interesting how if you can do that and adapt like that. But I think sometimes in larger organizations it can be more difficult because you probably do hire someone for a role and there aren't enough people to go round to do all the other roles. So it's about finding the person then that can multitask as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's about knowing your team is so important. And even like before you hire your team, it's about getting clear on their, you know, their strengths. You know, do you understand, like, this person is telling you this, but, you know, you can do strengths assessment, the Clifton Strengths Test. You can do lots of different things to make sure, you know, I think sometimes we think we just hire the person is going to fix it. But actually as the leader or the boss or whatever, like, you need to know, like, specifically what you want that person to do. And I think a lot of times we just hope they'll just figure it out, whereas I think it's our job to be, like, explicit about what we need and, like you said, playing to their strengths.
Yeah, 100%. Nice silence there now, and I didn't even think that it was awkward at all.
Good.
Well, I ask you the two big questions that I ask everyone.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, Lucy, what advice would you give young people today?
Don't take life so seriously. I think everything always figures itself out. I think we are all resilient. We are all resourceful. We're all whole. You can achieve anything you want to achieve in your life, but you have to be ready for failure. And if you're not okay with failure, you're never going to have success, because I don't believe in failure. I just believe, like, you know, rejection is redirection. So I think if you can get comfortable failing, you have to be comfortable failing in life, because life is all about contrast. So you can't have good without bad. How do you know what's success if you don't have failure? So I think it's about embracing failure. You're not a failure. It's just life trying to teach you a lesson. So I think the faster you can learn from the tests that the universe is sending you, the easier things are going to become. Because, you know, when you get into your adult life, I see it all the time. The same kind of people and scenarios present themselves to you over and over and over again. Do you ever notice that? Same people show up in your life in different ways until you learn what life has been trying to teach you for 40 years or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
So I think if you could learn that earlier in your life, that actually if you have, like I should have learned earlier, it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to say no. It's okay to own who you are. It's not just because you're confident, and just, you know, don't stop worrying so much about what other people think, because actually nobody really cares. Everyone's so caught up in their own stuff. So stay in your own lane, be willing to fail, and just be kind to yourself. That's what I'd say.
And what's the meaning of life?
I think for so long I really struggled with this. And I didn't understand. I remember I was in Marbella with my friends about 7 years ago, I think. And I was going through this whole kind of spiritual awakening, kind of in terms of, like, getting, you know, all the stuff I told you was preparing me for who I am now. And I remember I was reading Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, which is all about, like, you know, your life purpose and alignment with who you are and being present and learning from the tests from the universe and all this kind of stuff. And I was searching, like, even as a kid, my mother would say to me, like, I was so anxious, and she cried to me one day and she was like, what are you searching for? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just not happy. And she used to say that to me, and it used to really upset me, because she was upset for me. So as I lay on the sun lounger in Marbella, I was, like, literally going, like, what is the meaning of all this? Like, this just feels so hard. Like, you know, why is life so hard? And my friends were all there as I was reading this book. And when I looked up, they had all gone inside, gone for a nap or shower. And I was just kind of lying there reading my book. And I remember just going, oh God, I'm here by myself, like, trying to figure this out. And then in that moment, I realised that actually I was trying to get everyone else to figure it out for me, when really it was me that needed to figure it out. So the meaning of life for me is all about, like, taking the good with the bad. We're here to experience the earth. We're here to experience the beauty of our planet. We're here to experience each other. We're here to learn lessons. We're here to support other people. You know, I think we're here, the more we can kind of give to others, I think the happier we'll all be. So that's kind of what I would kind of say. The meaning of life is just experiencing it, lifting each other up, and just, like, living every day, like, because, like, honestly, I don't think we really grasp, like, we could be gone in the morning, like, so just enjoy it and just don't take everything so seriously. Very philosophical.
Lucy, that was so philosophical, but so lovely, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming on the pod.
Thank you, Laura, for having me.